What's going on, y'all? Today I got a new package in the mail and I'm so excited to talk about this specific fragrance. This is a collector's edition. Now, I have no idea if this is going to be just a limited release or if they're planning on keeping it around for a while, but either way, I bought into the hype and I wanted to see if this new Afnan fragrance, Supremacy Collector's Edition, is worth the price and if it is at all similar to what people are saying this is a clone and a twist on. We're going to be comparing it to Creed Absolu Aventus, and we're going to see how close it is. So if you're interested in this kind of content, consider subscribing and let's jump into the video. Welcome everyone to the channel. It's Eli with Common Sense. It is great to have you. So let's take a look at this presentation, shall we? So this fragrance comes in a different sort of packaging. Now I do have the original Afnan Supremacy Silver, which is supposed to be a Creed Aventus inspired fragrance. In fact, it is very close to Creed Aventus. It's the first Creed Aventus dupe and twist that I ever got, and some really great memories with this fragrance. But in my opinion, these are two completely different fragrances, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. They definitely leveled up their presentation with this box. It's almost like a really high quality textured feel on the box. It almost feels like a leather, or like a fake pleather of some sort. And you also have this clasp on the side that opens up to reveal the, oh no, not that way. And you have this opening in the front that reveals this really awesome looking fragrance bottle. And of course, the entire reason that I bought this fragrance is because of this bottle. Just look at how beautiful this looks. It's like a concrete gray or like a slate tile. And then you have this beautiful black speckled paint on there that almost looks like a robin's egg. And oh my goodness, it just looks so good with the black on the gray. I just cannot get enough of this bottle. And the atomizer itself is quite nice. Definitely stronger than some of the other Middle Eastern atomizers that are out there. And oh my God, this smells so good, just right up in my face. So now let's kind of compare some of the notes, how this smells, and see if it definitely compares to the original Creed Absolu Aventus. So in this one with Supremacy, in the opening, you have a very nice fruity tropical pineapple up top that kind of reminds me of Paco Rabanne's Black Excess. So it's going to be very tart, it's going to be very sweet, and it's just very bright in the opening. And I also love the apple that they added in this in the opening because it adds a little bit of a crispness, and it definitely smells a little bit different from the Absolu Aventus. And also they have some orange blossom and white florals in here that adds a much more mature feeling and makes it smell a little bit more premium in the opening, and I just cannot get enough of that opening. And it's kind of strange too, because as you smell this on your skin and as it settles down within the first 10, 15, 20 minutes, it's going to smell very similar to that fruity tropical vibe in Jomashop's Herba Pura. So it definitely takes a deviation from that Creed and it makes it smell a little bit more unique, and I really do like that opening. Now for the Aventus opening, I do have this right here, and I gotta say, it feels like there's a little bit more grapefruit in the opening, and I feel like it's not quite as interesting. You still have some of that Aventus inspiration, but I think it is definitely a little bit darker and it's not quite as bright and in your face. So it's a little bit more subdued, but I still have to say I like the opening of this Afnan fragrance a little bit better. Yeah, it's almost like there's more ginger in this, even though it's not really listed in the notes, but it definitely smells more earthy and a little bit more rooty, if that makes sense. But definitely with both of these fragrances, they do carry on that strong birch and that amber as it starts to settle down. So if you're a fan of that cedar, I think either of these are going to be perfect for you. Now what's kind of cool is as this fragrance starts to dry down and as it gets into the mid of the fragrance, some of those middle notes and the heart, it definitely starts to get much creamier from some of those white florals and that orange blossom. And I gotta say, the amber definitely keeps it smelling warm and cozy, and especially from some of that ginger in there, it definitely has a warm, radiating quality that smells a little bit spicy, combined with some of those fruity notes in the opening, and it really does just smell like heaven. Now with this one, the Absolu Aventus, I definitely get more patchouli. I get a little bit more of that fruity, earthy touch as it dries down, and I think it definitely still has that earthy and woody vibe, but a little bit smokier. And actually, the more that I spent some time with this on skin, the more it reminded me of Dior Sauvage Elixir, where it's got that kind of of smoky ambroxan, dark blue, musky profile that's super popular nowadays. But for me, I just get more of that designer quality. So as strange as it sounds, this Absolu Aventus smells more designer than the Middle Eastern fragrance. Go figure. And to be fair, this is going to be super unbiased because I have a huge spot in my heart for niche fragrances and also some of the more affordable stuff. But in this video, we're still checking out whether or not it's worth it to pick up and pony up and pay this more expensive price. So far, this one's taken the cake. Yeah, I'm definitely loving that ginger and the patchouli in here. And I think the patchouli turns a little bit more chocolatey and it becomes more dark. And I think as time goes on, it starts to deviate and become its own thing because there's more spices that kind of come out, and I feel like there's more saffron developing. I don't believe that one was noted, but you do definitely get some of that saffron, and it turns a little bit more spicy and Middle Eastern smelling. Now with the Aventus, I think this definitely starts to smell a lot better as it dries down. It's got some of that nutmeg and cinnamon, and it definitely becomes a little bit more oak moss heavy. So that oak moss definitely comes out. It's much more noticeable than in the Supremacy. So if you're a huge oak moss fan, then you might like the dry down as it starts to approach that in this one a little bit better. With the Collector's Edition Supremacy, I definitely think the creamy and spicy woodiness in here, it definitely reminds me of Initio's Oud for Greatness and even Oud for Greatness Neo, because it has that slightly creamy, fruity vibe that sticks around into the dry down. But again, I think some of those like creamy woods definitely do play really nice off the skin. And it definitely has some of that herbal oak moss and earthy musks. But again, it's not like 100% similar to this. They do start to differ, and I still think I prefer this one. And with the Absolu Aventus, you definitely get more ambergris and musk heavy in that dry down, and it still has that kind of original Aventus style, but again, it's updated and it definitely smells more designer. So it's like a hybrid between Dior Sauvage Elixir and the Creed Aventus. I'm not getting quite as close to that Dior Sauvage Elixir with this Supremacy because I think this definitely leans more towards the Oud for Greatness with some of those dense woods and spices, but it's super fruity throughout its entire lifetime and smells really good. Now, in terms of performance, I gotta say that the Supremacy is definitely stronger in the opening, and I remember it did radiate quite a few feet out in front of me, and with the Aventus, it was a little bit more of an intimate bubble, and I did kind of have to put my elbow a little bit closer to my nose, and I did spray him in the exact same spot. I tried to even go a little bit harder with this one because it was a smaller atomizer, and I tried to make it as fair as possible and give this one a good chance. But again, it's a little bit more intimate, and I got probably about a foot length of projection, at least on my skin. But if you do move around and you walk around, you're not gonna have trouble smelling either of these fragrances. But if you're sitting stagnant at your office desk, then you know, this one, I think it's gonna project a lot better. Now, longevity on the Supremacy, I do get about 8 to 10 hours, and honestly, I get longer on the clothes. And I did see some people on Fragrantica and the fragrance blogs saying that theirs was super poor longevity, around 3 to 4 hours, and I find that really hard to believe because this stuff was super potent. I could smell it all day and into the next day, especially on the clothes. So most likely they were going nose blind, and I have experienced that with a lot of Middle Eastern fragrances and some of these stronger fragrances because they're so dense, they're so thick, and really your brain's not used to those super strong smells, so it will shut it off after a while so that it's just not bombarding your brain with extra stimuli, you know, throughout the day. And then with the Absolu Aventus, it's actually about the same. It's about 8 to 10 hours and maybe just slightly less when comparing them side by side. But again, it's just that performance where it's just slightly weaker and it doesn't radiate quite as far, but they last about the same. So honestly, it's a tie. Now, overall, I'd have to say both of these are wonderful DNAs. Obviously, one is from a house that's known for its more astronomical prices versus the performance. They used to be really great quality and really great longevity, but you know, since the ownership transferred, it's not quite what it used to be. But this one is from a Middle Eastern house. It's more affordable, and you know, this brand, it's not going to always be the best quality. It's usually just really nice, affordable versions of some of these expensive fragrances. That's just my opinion, but I do have to say that I do like the quality of this one, and it smells better than some of the other cheaper Afnans that I have smelled. So maybe stepping up to that $60 price tag will get you a better fragrance. And again, value-based, I think this collector's edition is really good. I would probably wait for it to come down a little bit in price. When I first recorded this video, I think it was released for 70 or 60 bucks, but I did find it on Jomashop for about 49 bucks. You can pick that down in the description and save yourself some money. But yeah, I think around that $40 to $50 mark, I think it's definitely worth it because it smells really high quality, it lasts long, and I'd say just pull the trigger if you can find it for under 50. And of course, if you have the extra money and you want a brand that comes with Aventus Absolu, then definitely go for it. I mean, everybody's got their reasons for buying something. Sometimes it's to splurge and to get something very expensive and nice smelling and make yourself just feel more expensive and carry yourself a lot better. I know that's sometimes how I feel when I wear niche fragrances. So sometimes it's about spending that money to show yourself that you are more serious about your career or whatever you want. Or you can save some money and go with this collector's edition, and you're going to be getting a very high quality fragrance for a really good price. So let me know down below if you've tried this fragrance, how close you think it is to this fragrance, because again, I think that this is, you know, it's definitely inspired by it, but I don't think it is a 1-to-1. I think it's maybe a 6 out of 10 in terms of the exact cloning of it. So again, I think this is more spicy, it's more creamy, and it's more fruity throughout. So I think it is a nice, almost like a hybrid between that Black XS and the Absolu Aventus. So let me know how close you think it is down below, or if it's just my bottle, or I need to just wait for it to macerate, because that could be a thing too. Thank you all so much for watching. You have an amazing day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm Common Sense. Until the next time, bye-bye.